The night is thick with silence, but not the peaceful kind. It is the silence of a city holding its breath, waiting for the sky to break open. You settle in, close your eyes, and I invite you to join me on a journey. We are in Europe, 1944, a continent scarred and trembling under the iron grip of war. In the distance, the muffled growl of engines, the throb of bombers gathering overhead. Soon, Saint-Malo, a walled city by the sea, will erupt into flame, but our story does not begin with fire. It begins with a child, a girl named Marie-Laure LeBlanc, who at the age of 6 began to lose her sight. She lives in Paris with her father, a kind man who works as a locksmith at the Museum of Natural History. Together they share a small apartment tucked above the museum grounds, and in that space grows a bond woven from books, riddles, and patience. Each morning her father leads her on a careful walk, counting steps, letting her fingers brush the stones and railings so she can memorize the paths. He builds her tiny wooden models of the city's neighborhoods, each street, each corner, each sewer grate carved with meticulous care. In her small hands, the models become maps of independence. By touch, she learns to travel. By memory, she begins to see. At the same time, far away in the soot-stained mining town of Zollverein in Germany, a boy named Werner crouches in the dark. Orphaned, pale-haired, eyes bright with restless hunger. Werner grows up with his younger sister Jutta in a home run by stern nuns. Their world is narrow, the mines swallowing men whole, the town blanketed in coal dust. But Werner has a gift. He can hear the invisible. One evening he discovers a broken radio, its innards exposed like some wounded bird. His hands, small and sure, coax it back to life. And from its speakers spills a miracle. A man's voice speaking in French, teaching about science, about galaxies, about the unseen forces of the universe. Werner and Jutta listen in secret, faces pressed close as the world beyond their ruined town pours into their lives. Two children separated by borders, bound by unseen threads. One learns to trace the grooves of miniature streets with her fingers. The other tunes wires and coils until they hum with hidden knowledge. Both in their own ways are listening, straining to grasp a larger world, to believe that life can be more than blindness, more than darkness, more than the shadows closing in. And yet, as you sit here in the quiet, you can already sense what neither child can, that the storm of war is drawing them together, that the light they cannot see is waiting just ahead, flickering inside the ruins of a city by the sea. The days of Marie-Laure's childhood unfold like a delicate tapestry of sound, touch, and scent. Without sight, she learns to measure the world in other ways. Her father places the little wooden model of their Paris neighborhood in her hands, each building a careful replica. Every street a carved groove she can follow with her fingertips. He teaches her to memorize distances by counting steps, to feel the patterns of the paving stones, to listen for the echoes of her cane bouncing back from doorways. What others see, she senses in fragments. The perfume of roasted chestnuts from a vendor's cart, the damp stone of the cathedral walls, the salt of the Seine drifting in the air. At the museum where her father is master locksmith, she trails her fingers along drawers of shells, skulls, and rare gems. There is one stone, however, that captures her imagination more than any other: the Sea of Flames. Rumors swirl among the curators and guards about its power. A diamond of impossible size and clarity, glowing like a blue flame within. Some say it grants eternal life to its keeper, but at a cost. Misfortune will rain upon those they love. Marie-Laure listens, her face calm, though a tremor of fear passes through her when she hears of the curse. Her father laughs gently, calling it a story, nothing more. But he too cannot help but run a careful hand over the locked glass case, as though feeling the weight of fate behind it. Meanwhile, in Germany, Werner's talent with radios grows into something astonishing. He takes apart broken receivers, scavenges copper wire from trash heaps, and rebuilds them into humming devices that pull voices out of the night air. The children sit huddled in their narrow bed, listening to the voice from Paris. A mysterious French professor speaking about light, about the way it bends, refracts, reveals. Werner feels the world expanding with every word, a universe blooming beyond the black dust of his mining town. Jutta listens too, but while Werner hears promise, she hears danger. She whispers warnings. The Reich does not tolerate curiosity, and radios are forbidden. Werner silences her gently, unable to resist the pull of the unseen waves. Then the world begins to change. In Paris, rumors spread like smoke. German troops march closer, their tanks grinding forward, their boots echoing through the cobbled boulevards. Posters appear, curfews are announced, and soldiers in gray uniforms march beneath the Arc de Triomphe. Marie-Laure clutches her father's hand as they step into the crowd, blind eyes wide, the noise of boots and engines pressing down on her like thunder. Somewhere in the museum behind locked doors, the sea of flames waits, its curse stretching out invisible fingers toward those who dare to touch it. Marie-Laure does not know it yet, but she and her father are about to leave Paris forever. A secret has been entrusted to them, heavy and bright, and the war will not allow them to stay where they are. As the city darkens under occupation, the sound of radios whispering forbidden truths carries through the night. And in a German orphanage, Werner listens, unaware that his path is already bending toward a girl he has never seen. In the gray heart of Zollverein, Werner grows up beneath a sky that always seems the color of ash. The coal mines breathe black dust into every crevice, and boys his age know their futures are already written. By 15 they will descend into the earth, lungs filling with soot, lives shortened before they have truly begun. Werner fears that fate, not only for himself but for Jutta, his sister, who is his only family and his closest companion. She is fierce, questioning, unwilling to swallow the lies that the Nazi radios broadcast day and night. He, meanwhile, cannot resist the pull of the hidden frequencies that sneak through the static at night. Voices speaking of science, mathematics, and invisible forces that shape the universe. He is a child with the hands of an inventor, turning broken scraps into humming machines. Word spreads quickly, as it always does in small places. Soon miners climb the orphanage steps, radios in hand, begging Werner to mend them. He opens the backs of the sets, fingers darting with precision, rewiring, soldering, listening for the faintest spark. He becomes the boy who can fix anything. In those brief moments, with the radio dial glowing and voices spilling into the dark, he feels as though he has stepped outside the suffocating walls of the mine and into a vast, unseen cosmos. But every gift has its cost. Werner knows the Reich will not smile on a boy who teaches himself to decode radio waves, who listens to foreign voices. When a German officer discovers Werner's talent, his life takes a sudden, irreversible turn. He is offered a place at Schulpforta, the elite academy where the Reich sculpts its future leaders. To stay in the mines is death. To leave is salvation, but a salvation that demands obedience to cruelty. At the same time, in Paris, Marie-Laure feels the world narrowing. The city of light grows dim as blackout curtains descend and Nazi banners unfurl. Her father, careful and quiet, tells her they must go. She is 12 now, walking the streets by memory alone, counting steps, turning corners she cannot see. In her pocket he slips something wrapped in cloth, a stone she cannot touch. He tells her only that it is important and that she must keep it safe. She senses the weight of it, not only in her hand but in her chest, as if she has been given a secret too heavy for a child to carry. The two children, one in Germany, one in France, move forward on parallel tracks like trains heading toward an unseen junction. Werner climbs the stairs of the academy, his mind alive with equations but his heart heavy with unease as he witnesses brutality disguised as discipline. Marie-Laure follows her father west toward the sea, toward a fortress city of stone where the air tastes of salt and gulls cry above the ramparts. Neither knows the other exists. Neither knows that the same invisible threads of radio waves whispering across the night are weaving their lives together. But you, listening in the quiet, can hear it already. The faint murmur of destiny, the light they cannot yet see waiting to break through the darkness. The roads from Paris are choked with wagons and carts, with families pushing wheelbarrows piled high with bundles of clothes and pots and mattresses tied with string. The German army has entered the city, and the sound of their boots still lingers in Marie-Laure's ears as she clutches her father's sleeve. He leads her through the chaos with quiet determination, whispering the number of steps, pressing her hand against railings, doorways, and walls so she can keep her bearings. Each stride away from their home feels like tearing another page from the life they once knew. In her coat pocket rests the small parcel her father has entrusted to her. Wrapped in cloth, heavier than it should be, pulsing in her imagination like a hidden heart. She cannot see it, yet she feels its presence always. As Paris vanishes behind them, the roads lead toward the coast, to the walled city of Saint-Malo, where Marie-Laure's great-uncle Etienne lives in a tall, narrow house near the sea. Etienne is a reclusive man, haunted by memories of a war fought decades before, when he lost his brother and gained a silence inside himself that he has never shaken. His home is a fortress of books, radios, and memories, its attic room filled with mysterious equipment that crackles with voices from across the airwaves. To Marie-Laure, the house is both terrifying and wondrous. Its staircases twist and creak like the branches of some ancient tree. The windows open to the endless roar of the Atlantic, where gulls wheel over the gray water and waves slam against the stone walls below. Her father sets to work immediately, crafting another miniature model, this time of Saint-Malo itself. Each street, each alleyway, each lamppost is reproduced in wood, placed carefully under Marie-Laure's searching fingers. If you can navigate this, he tells her, you will never be lost. She spends hours with her hands exploring the little town, memorizing the ridges of the sea wall, the precise location of bakeries, markets, and wells. Soon she is able to step into the real streets alone, cane tapping, senses sharpened by necessity, her world mapped both in her mind and in the tiny wooden replica that waits for her at home. Beyond the walls, the sea is a constant presence. Salt spray in the air, the sound of waves battering the granite, the cries of fishermen hauling their nets. Marie-Laure, though blind, feels the vastness of the ocean in the wind that presses against her face. The city itself seems like a riddle, narrow passages that twist like puzzle pieces, hidden gardens behind walls, and the great cathedral that rises above the rooftops like a ship's mast. To her, the unseen world is alive with echoes, patterns, and whispered clues, and she listens as if her survival depends on it, because it does. Back in Germany, Werner marches through the gates of Schulpforte. The academy is everything he feared. Iron beds lined in rows, boots shining under harsh inspection, the constant bark of commands. The instructors test the boys with merciless drills, teaching them to obey without hesitation. Werner's talent with radios sets him apart, earning him privileges, but it also binds him tighter to the machinery of the Reich. At night, when the dormitory goes dark, he dreams of the French voice on the radio speaking of light, of science, of unseen worlds that shimmer beyond perception. The words are a lifeline, but they also haunt him. For in the morning he must help locate and silence voices like that. Two children, one learning to navigate the world without eyes, the other learning to see too much. Both carried forward by currents stronger than themselves, both unaware that destiny is already guiding them toward the same coastal city. A city soon to be encircled by fire and steel. The house on Rue Vauborel rises like a sentinel over Saint-Malo, a narrow stone tower that seems to scrape the sky. Marie-Laure feels its presence more than she sees it. tracing the cool granite walls, counting the steps that spiral upward to the attic. Her great-uncle Etienne greets her with a nervous kindness, his voice trembling as if each word is a bird uncertain of flight. He rarely leaves the house, haunted by the ghosts of the First World War. But within these walls he has built a secret sanctuary of wires and dials, a hidden radio that hums with invisible life. For Marie-Laure, the house is a labyrinth at first. Each corridor is a challenge, each room a mystery. But her father, patient as ever, places another wooden model into her hands. This one a miniature Saint-Malo, carved with the same precision as the neighborhoods of Paris. Each tiny street, each drain, each cathedral spire is rendered in wood. Learn it by touch, he tells her. Memorize it and you will walk the city as though you can see. She runs her fingers along the grooves, then tests herself in the real city, cane tapping over the stones, counting her steps from bakery to market to home. With every successful journey, her confidence grows. Though she cannot see the sea, she can hear it, smell it, feel its spray on her cheeks. The fortress walls become her boundaries, the wind her compass, the gulls her companions. Etienne, though withdrawn, comes alive when he speaks of his radios. He leads Marie-Laure up the steep stairs to the attic where wires snake across the beams and tubes glow with a faint orange light. He teaches her how sound can leap invisibly across air, how a voice spoken into a transmitter in one country can land in the ear of a child hundreds of miles away. Marie-Laure listens, fascinated. Somewhere, she thinks, the voice that once spoke to her in Utah still floats in the ether, waiting to be heard again. But the war seeps into every corner. German officers march through the city gates. The tricolor of France disappears, replaced by the swastika snapping in the salt wind. Rations grow thin. Soldiers patrol the ramparts, their boots striking the stones above Marie-Laure's head as she feels her way along the wall. At night, the cathedral bells are silent, and the city becomes a maze of whispers and fear. Her father works in secret, measuring the house, building another miniature. This one not of the town, but of the house itself. Every stair, every alcove, every hidden passage is recreated in wood. He whispers to Marie-Laure that knowledge is the best kind of weapon, that if she can hold this model in her mind, she will never be truly trapped. And though she is afraid, though the weight of the mysterious stone in her pocket feels like destiny pressing down upon her, she listens, she memorizes, and she prepares. And while she learns the rhythms of the sea, Werner drills in the courtyard of Schulpforta, lungs burning, boots slamming stone. He feels himself pulled in two directions, the voice of the Reich demanding obedience, and the memory of the French broadcasts whispering about light. The invisible waves that once promised freedom are now the very signals he is trained to hunt down. He does not yet know it, but each lesson, each mission, each turn of the dial is carrying him closer to the girl who climbs the narrow stairs of her uncle's house, holding the map of a city carved in miniature by her father's steady hands. In the distance, beyond the walls, the ocean hurls itself against the rocks. Its voice is eternal, louder than bombs, older than empires. Marie-Laure listens, her blind eyes open wide, and feels that the sea is telling her something. That even in the blackest night there is a light she cannot see. At Schulpforta, Werner's gift becomes both his salvation and his curse. The academy is a world built on discipline, cruelty, and the hammering of boys into weapons. The instructors call it education, but the lessons are not about truth. They are about obedience. They march the boys for hours through mud and snow, strip them of names and individuality, and measure their worth in pain endured. Werner, thin and pale, hears bones snap under the weight of punishments. Sees classmates broken for hesitating, for questioning, for failing to chant back the words of their masters. Yet Werner's brilliance with radios cannot be ignored. While other boys collapse in exhaustion, he kneels beside shattered transmitters and brings them humming back to life. He traces the invisible lines of current with his mind. hears the secret heartbeats of circuits and stitches them together with the precision of a surgeon. The Academy's commanders watch closely. Soon he is summoned to the office of Dr. Hauptmann, a man whose manner is both charming and cold, like ice beneath sunlight. Hauptmann praises Werner's genius, hands him tools, problems, impossible equations. The boy solves them all. He is promoted, exempted from the mines, lifted out of the future that had once seemed inevitable. For Werner, it feels like a miracle. For Jutta, left behind in the soot-streaked orphanage, it feels like betrayal. In her letters, Jutta warns him. She writes that she cannot bear the things she hears on the official broadcasts, the lies that pour from the Reich. She remembers the French professor's voice, the one they used to listen to in secret, speaking of galaxies and hope. She begs Werner not to forget who he is. Werner folds the letters carefully, hides them, but says nothing. In the barracks, to question is to be crushed. He buries his doubts under formulas, soldering irons, and the static hum of radios. Far to the west, Marie-Laure's world grows smaller even as her imagination expands. Her father has been ordered to leave Saint-Malo on a mission, and the girl feels the absence like a missing heartbeat. Alone with her great-uncle Etienne, she spends long hours exploring the miniature city he and her father have built. She memorizes every staircase, every back alley, every hidden door. Blind fingers trace the wooden walls, learning the city by touch, committing its secrets to her mind. Etienne, though fearful of the outside world, begins to lean on Marie-Laure's courage. He takes her to the attic where the hidden radio waits, its tubes glowing faintly like embers. At night, when the city lies in blackout darkness, they listen to the forbidden broadcasts. The familiar voice of the professor, the same one that once filled Werner's nights in Zollverein, now comforts Marie-Laure. He speaks of light as wave and particle, of the stars that burn long after they die, of truths that survive even when no one can see them. For Marie-Laure, his words are like a lantern inside her blindness. For Werner, far away, those same broadcasts become targets, signals he is ordered to track and silence. The paths of the children bend closer. Werner, now a soldier in a unit that hunts resistance radios across Europe, begins to hear faint transmissions hidden in the static. Numbers, codes, voices speaking from France. Each time he traces them, locates them, and watches as soldiers descend on villages to arrest, to execute, to erase. He tells himself he is only finding signals, not people. But in his dreams he hears the voice of the French professor again, the same voice he once cherished with Jutta. Somewhere beyond the snow he knows that voice is still speaking. And one day he may have to silence it himself. And in Saint-Malo, with the sea roaring at the walls and German patrols marching the cobbled streets, Marie-Laure waits. She is blind, she is small, she is alone. Yet she holds in her hand a key to survival. Not just the carved model her father built, but the radio in the attic, and the courage that grows each time she finds her way through the labyrinth of the city. The war is closing in. The light she cannot see burns inside her, faint but unyielding, even as shadows lengthen across the fortress by the sea. Across the shattered map of Europe, another figure moves with quiet menace. Sergeant Major Reinhold von Rumpel, tall and skeletal, stalks through towns and museums with the patience of a predator. He is a man marked by disease. A cancer gnaws at him from within, a death sentence whispered in the dark. And he believes only one thing can save him. The sea of flames, the cursed diamond said to burn with a blue fire at its heart, said to grant immortality to its keeper while destroying all they love. To von Rumpel, dying by inches, the curse is meaningless. What does it matter if his family suffers when his own life might be spared? He scours Europe in the wake of conquest, following rumors, interrogating curators, turning over display cases with gloved hands. In the halls of occupied museums, glass shatters, marble statues topple, but still he searches. He believes the stone was smuggled out of Paris as the Nazis advanced. Whispers tell of a locksmith, a man with deft fingers and a blind daughter, fleeing toward the coast with something precious wrapped in cloth. Von Rumpel sharpens his obsession into a weapon. Every step of his search is fueled not by loyalty to the Reich, but by desperation, by the quiet terror that his body is failing him. The diamond is no longer legend to him. It is survival. In Saint-Malo, Marie-Laure feels the absence of her father like a hollow in her chest. He had left on orders, promising to return, but days bleed into weeks, and his footsteps never sound on the stair. She clutches the tiny model of Saint-Malo, running her fingers over its carved houses until she can walk the streets in her mind with perfect clarity. Yet even in her practiced journeys to the bakery, to the seawall, to the hidden groves where she listens to the ocean breathe, fear walks beside her. She hears soldiers barking orders, their boots slamming stone, their rifles clicking in the dark. Etienne, her great-uncle, grows more protective. He is haunted by phantoms from the last war, but Marie-Laure's courage slowly rekindles something in him. She convinces him to climb the stairs with her, up into the attic where the forbidden radio waits. Together they begin to send faint-coded messages, strings of numbers that slip into the night like whispers on the wind. To Marie-Laure it feels like answering the unseen voice she once heard as a child, as though she is speaking back to the man who taught her about stars. Far away, Werner listens. His unit has been sent deeper into France, their task cruel and precise, to locate resistance transmitters, to hunt the voices that dare to defy the Reich. He sits with headphones pressed to his ears, his fingers dancing over the dials, searching for the faintest signal. Then one evening, through the static, he hears it. The familiar cadence, the same rhythms of numbers and truths that had once enchanted him in the orphanage attic. He recognizes the pattern instantly. His heart stumbles. Could it be the same broadcasts, the same source he once worshipped? Yet now his orders are clear. Find it, expose it, silence it. The brilliance that once freed him has become the very chain that binds him. He tells himself he is powerless, that survival demands obedience, but inside another voice whispers. The professor's voice, Yuta's voice, his own, asking him what it means to live if every choice he makes darkens the world. In the fortress city by the sea, Marie-Laure waits for her father, clings to her model and sends her signals. In the crumbling villages of Europe, Werner listens, calculates, and marches ever closer. And behind them both, like a shadow cast across the continent, Von Rumpel follows, eyes fixed on the diamond that he believes will grant him life eternal. The unseen currents tighten, drawing them all toward the same storm, toward the same storm, toward the same storm, toward the same storm. The days stretch long and brittle in Saint-Malo, the gulls crying over the ramparts as the tide crashes and retreats with endless patience. Marie-Laure rises each morning to the smell of salt damp in the stone walls and the sound of Etienne's nervous footsteps pacing below. Her father has been gone for weeks, arrested on suspicion of treason, and though no letter comes, she holds on to his promise. I will return. She keeps the little model of the city near her bed, running her fingers over its carved streets until the patterns of wood burn themselves into her memory. With each turn of her hand, she learns to walk the real Saint-Malo without him, navigating its twisting alleys and hidden courtyards as if the miniature city has breathed its secrets directly into her palms. Etienne, pale and withdrawn, fears the soldiers who swagger through town. He spends his days inside, curtains drawn, his voice trembling as he recounts memories of the First World War, trenches, gas, the echo of artillery. Yet Marie-Laure, blind but unyielding, nudges him back toward life. She coaxes him up the spiraling stairs to the attic where a great contraption waits. His secret radio, a tangle of wires, coils, and glowing tubes. It hums faintly in the darkness like a heartbeat behind the walls. At first, Etienne hesitates, but Marie-Laure's steady hands and quiet determination give him courage. Together they begin to broadcast. Not music, not stories, but numbers. Strings of figures whispered into the void, coded messages for the French resistance. To Marie-Laure, it feels like stepping into the same current that once carried the voice of the mysterious professor to her childhood nights in Paris. She cannot see the dials she turns, but she knows where each knob lies, memorized as surely as the cobblestones under her feet. As she speaks the numbers into the microphone, she imagines them flying out across the air, invisible but powerful, like the light the professor once described. Particles, waves, a language that ignores walls and borders. Beyond the sea, Werner sits in a truck bouncing along the broken roads of occupied France. His unit has become efficient at its grim work. They arrive in a village, he traces the signals, the soldiers storm the house, and people vanish. Sometimes he hears the crack of gunfire behind a wall, sometimes only silence. He tells himself he is not the one pulling the trigger. He is only the boy with the headphones, the boy who can hear what others cannot. Yet every time he picks up the faint threads of a transmission, he feels a sickness rise in him. One night, through the static, he hears the numbers. Familiar cadence spoken in French threaded with the rhythm of the professor's old voice. It is like a ghost has found him in the dark, calling him across the ruined continent. He leans forward, adjusting the dials, breath quickening. The signal comes from the coast, from a fortress city by the sea. He writes the coordinates down, but his hand trembles. Juta's voice echoes in his memory. Don't close your eyes, Werner. Don't let them turn you into one of them. In Saint-Malo, Marie-Laure sits in the attic, the microphone warm beneath her fingertips. She reads the numbers slowly, carefully, as Etienne watches with wide, fearful eyes. Outside, the sea pounds against the walls of the city, a reminder that nothing, not stone, not steel, not even war, lasts forever. She thinks of her father, of the way he carved each miniature street for her, and she wonders if somewhere out in the dark, someone is listening. Someone is. Werner listens, and with every number she speaks, his heart tightens, torn between duty and memory, between the orders that drag him forward and the invisible light that once saved him. The attic of Etienne's house becomes Marie-Laure's sanctuary. She climbs the winding stairs by memory, counting steps, running her fingers along the wall until her palm finds the rough wood of the door. Inside, the air smells of dust and warm metal. The rafters creak with every shift of the sea breeze, and in the corner the hidden radio waits. Etienne shows her how to switch it on, how to lean close to the microphone so her voice does not carry beyond the wires. At night, when the city is darkened by blackout curtains and the roar of the ocean fills the silence, she whispers numbers into the air. Each sequence is code, disguised as nothing more than digits, but she knows it will be received by men and women hiding in the countryside, waiting for guidance, waiting for hope. At first, Etienne trembles as she reads. His memories of battlefields in the last war choke him, and he fears the knock of soldiers at the door. Yet something in Marie-Laure's calmness steadies him. He listens as her small voice threads into the microphone, as the numbers float away like sparks in the night sky. Slowly his courage returns, and sometimes he adds his own voice, broadcasting stories or songs, believing that words themselves can wound the oppressors who try to silence them. Far away, Werner bends over his radio set, headphones pressed tight. He is older now, his face sharpened by hunger and hardship, his hair pale as frost. His unit travels across France in a battered truck, following signals into villages where suspicion blooms like weeds. He twists the dials with practiced hands, listening for patterns in the static, for the ghostly whispers that betray resistance fighters. Each time he locates one, soldiers storm into homes, dragging men into the streets, leaving silence where voices once sang. Werner tells himself it is not he who kills, only he who listens, but the excuses taste bitter. Then one evening, as bombs rumble far away and the night presses close, the headphones crackle with a sound that freezes him. A familiar rhythm, numbers spoken in a calm, clear French voice. He knows it instantly. It is the echo of the broadcasts he once shared with Jutta, the lessons about light, the voice that opened the world for him as a boy in the mines. The very signal that first made him dream is now the one he has been ordered to find and destroy. The irony burns in him. He could report it. He could mark the coordinates and watch as soldiers descend upon the source. But his hands hesitate over the notebook. The voice feels like a thread pulling him back to who he once was, back to the boy who dreamed of galaxies instead of trenches. For the first time in years, Werner feels something other than obedience. A flicker of rebellion, fragile but alive. And in Saint-Malo, Marie-Laure leans forward, lips close to the microphone, sending out her numbers. She cannot know that on the other end of those invisible waves sits a boy whose destiny is intertwined with hers. She cannot know that her whispers slip into his ears like a lifeline, stirring a conscience that war has tried to silence. Outside, the sea pounds the walls of the fortress city, carrying her words farther than sight can reach, farther than fear can smother. The echoes cross the night, and though neither child can see the other, both are listening. Both are waiting. And the storm over Saint-Malo draws nearer, its guns pointed at the stones above Marie-Laure's head, its path pulling Werner ever closer to the house on Rue Vauborel. The road to Saint-Malo grows darker for Werner with every mile. The boy who once knelt in wonder over a crackling radio is now a soldier in a gray uniform, a rifle slung over his shoulder, his hands no longer stained with coal but with the ghostly memory of those who vanished after he found them. His unit specializes in hunting resistance transmitters, a task that seems designed for him alone. He turns the dial, listens to the hiss of static, and with a flick of his fingers he can pinpoint a signal hidden in the air. Then the others move in, dragging men from their beds, leaving silence where once there was song. Werner feels the weight of each silence pressing on his chest. Orders come down. The coast. They are told that traitors are transmitting from inside a walled city, feeding intelligence to the Allies. Werner hears the faint cadence of numbers again, so familiar it feels like a memory speaking directly into his skull. His pencil scratches across the page, tracing the origin, narrowing the circle until it points towards Saint-Malo. The name burns in him, the fortress by the sea, the place where, though he cannot know it, Marie-Laure waits in her uncle's attic. Her blind eyes turn toward the ocean as she whispers her codes. Inside Etienne's home, the war presses closer. German soldiers tighten their grip on the city, setting up checkpoints, patrolling the ramparts, searching for the traitors who dare to defy them. Food grows scarce, the air heavier with smoke and fear. Still, Marie-Laure climbs the stairs each night, clutching the model of the city her father carved, her cane tapping along the path she has memorized. In the attic, she speaks into the radio, her voice calm, steady, carrying the resistance's secrets across the night. Etienne listens in awe, his fear slowly transforming into resolve. He remembers his own brother lost in the trenches years ago, and he begins to believe that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. With Marie-Laure at his side, he too begins to whisper into the radio, sending stories, sending hope. The air between them hums with invisible power, like the blue flame of the diamond hidden in the house below. But far from them, von Rumpel sharpens his pursuit. His body weakens, his hair thinning, his skin yellowing from the sickness within. Yet his mind grows sharper, more relentless. He follows every whisper, every rumor of the diamond. He interrogates, threatens, kills, convinced that the sea of flames is near. For him, the fortress city is not merely a battlefield. It is the stage where he will seize immortality. Werner feels the pull of those numbers, the old professor's rhythm calling him forward. He does not know who speaks them, only that they come from a place where the sea is never silent. His superiors demand results. His comrades grow hungry for action. And Werner, caught between the boy he was and the soldier he has become, tightens his grip on the dial. Somewhere ahead lies the source of the signal, the invisible light he has been chasing since childhood. Somewhere ahead waits the meeting that will change everything. The summer air in Saint-Malo thickens with the smell of smoke. Allied bombers have begun their work, circling overhead like iron hawks, and every detonation shakes the ancient walls. Whole streets vanish in a bloom of fire, stone raining down in shards that rattle against the shutters of Etienne's tall house. Marie-Laure crouches in the attic, her hands pressed against the wooden model of the city, tracing its carved lanes as if to reassure herself that some order still exists beneath the chaos. In her pocket, the stone wrapped in cloth feels hotter than ever, pulsing like a heartbeat that will not quiet. Below, Etienne's voice trembles as he listens to the reports on his radio. The resistance begs for more broadcasts, more coded numbers, more courage to hold on. He turns to his great niece, blind but unwavering, and asks if she can continue. She nods, climbs to the microphone, and begins to whisper sequences of numbers, her voice soft but steady. The words thread into the air, floating out of the shattered city, across the ruined fields, across the night sky. She cannot know that each syllable is a spark guiding strangers toward her, or that her transmissions are what the enemy is hunting. On the other side of the crumbling city walls, Werner crouches in rubble, headphones pressed against his skull. The world reduced to static and rhythm. The bombs fall closer, the ground heaves, and still he tunes, his fingers sure, his mind tracing the ghostly threads. Then it comes again. The familiar cadence, the voice of a blind girl reading numbers. He cannot place the girl, yet the memory of the professor's broadcasts echoes inside her words. For Werner, it is like hearing the language of his own lost childhood, like being called home by a star he cannot see. His comrades clamor for action, urging him to fix the location so they can strike. But Werner hesitates. Each number she speaks feels like a plea, a reminder that he is more than the uniform he wears. He sees the faces of the men who have fallen because of his calculations, the silence left behind in villages his unit has destroyed. He cannot keep burying himself under obedience. Something in him resists, small but immovable, like a stone at the bottom of a stream. Meanwhile, von Rumpel prowls the burning streets, his cough tearing at his chest, his eyes scanning every ruin. He believes the diamond is here, hidden behind walls of granite and ash. The curse means nothing to him. Death is already inside his body. He will not stop until he holds the stone in his hand, until he can believe himself eternal. Each collapsed house, each terrified family, each scream in the night is nothing but smoke between him and his prize. The siege tightens. The city shrinks. Fire leaps from rooftop to rooftop, painting the sky with an apocalyptic glow. Trapped in the attic with her radio and her fear, Marie-Laure presses her palms to the miniature streets, reminding herself that she knows this city better than anyone. Somewhere out in the rubble, a boy is listening, his headphones filling with her breath, her voice, her courage. And somewhere else, in the same burning labyrinth, a dying man stalks toward the stone she guards, the invisible currents of fate knot tighter, drawing them all into a single unavoidable collision as Saint-Malo burns. The city groans as if alive, every stone shuddering under the weight of fire. Roofs collapse in sprays of sparks, streets choke with dust, and the sea hurls its white fists against the walls of Saint-Malo. In the attic of the tall house on Rue Vauborel, Marie-Laure crouches alone, the little model city pressed against her knees, the mysterious stone still wrapped in cloth within her pocket. Etienne has been taken. Her father has vanished into the machinery of the war. Now only her voice remains. A thread of sound cast into the storm. She leans toward the microphone, lips brushing the mesh, and whispers the numbers. Each syllable is a small defiance, a signal meant for those who fight in the shadows. Down in the ruined streets, Werner staggers through smoke and falling debris, ears sealed by the clamps of his radio headset. His comrades shout, their voices lost beneath the roar of collapsing walls. But Werner hears only her. The girl's words, clear and fragile, drift through the static, guiding him toward the heart of the city. He follows them as though they are a lighthouse beam sweeping through fog, each number a step on the path. His body aches from the weight of the equipment he carries, but something inside him has ignited, a resolve that feels older than the war. He knows this voice belongs to someone who believes in truth, in light, in resistance. And he knows he cannot silence her. Around him, the brutality of his fellow soldiers grows more ruthless. They ransack homes, drag families into the streets, and leave ashes where children once played. Werner feels the pull of their violence, the threat of punishment if he resists. Yet the voice in his ears steadies him, reminds him of Jutta, of the nights they huddled together listening to forbidden lessons about the cosmos. It is as if Marie-Laure herself has stepped into that space inside his head, whispering not only numbers but also courage. In the tall house, Marie-Laure feels the building shiver under another explosion. Dust drifts from the beams above, settling in her hair. She clutches the model city, her fingers tracing the carved streets, reminding herself of each turn, each alley. The world is darkness, but in her mind the city is bright, alive with detail. She thinks of her father, of the stone he pressed into her hand, and wonders if its curse is real. If she has doomed him. Doomed Etienne, yet she cannot bring herself to throw it away. Something tells her it must be protected, that its story is bound to her own. The hours stretch, the bombs fall, and the voices continue. Werner edges closer, guided by invisible threads. He feels the signal's pulse growing stronger as he nears the heart of the city. His orders are clear: report, expose, destroy. But as he climbs through rubble and ash, he realizes he is not chasing an enemy. He is chasing a voice that once lit the dark rooms of his childhood, a voice that speaks not of war but of light, of possibility, of hope. In the smoke-filled attic, Marie-Laure whispers again, her voice trembling but unbroken. She does not know who listens. She does not know that somewhere below in the labyrinth of burning streets, a boy with pale hair is already climbing toward her, torn between duty and mercy, between darkness and the faint, fragile light that threads them together. The city of Saint-Malo becomes a furnace. Fire leaps from rooftop to rooftop, painting the sky a molten orange that Marie-Laure cannot see. But she can feel the heat pressing through the stone walls, hear the hiss of slate tiles exploding as flames devour the roofs. In the attic she crouches, clutching the little wooden model her father carved, the tiny streets carved into her palms, the cloth-wrapped stone still hidden in her pocket. Each detonation shakes dust from the rafters. She whispers numbers into the microphone, her voice trembling but steady, as if by speaking she can hold back the collapse of the world outside. In the rubble below, Werner moves like a ghost. The radio strapped to his chest crackles with her signal, guiding him through smoke-choked alleys and stairwells where fire eats the air itself. His comrades are scattered, shouting orders, hunting, but Werner no longer listens. He follows the thread of sound, the voice that reminds him of the professor, of Jutta, of the nights when the universe felt wide and endless instead of suffocating. Each number she utters is a promise, a call to remember who he was before the uniform. When at last he reaches the tall house, its stones scorched, windows shattered, Werner climbs the spiraling staircase. The walls tremble, the air is thick with soot, but the numbers guide him upward. In the attic he finds her, A small figure crouched beside the glowing radio, blind eyes wide, lips still moving. Marie-Laure hears the boards creak beneath his boots and freezes, the cloth-wrapped stone pressed tight against her chest. She waits for the bark of an order, the click of a rifle, the end, but no shot comes. Instead, she hears the breath of a boy. She smells coal dust on his clothes, the metallic tang of wires and machines. When he speaks, his voice is quiet, uncertain. Not the hard bark of a soldier, but the trembling of someone who has forgotten how to be gentle. "Hello," he whispers in French, the word halting but recognizable. Marie-Laure tilts her head, listening, and something inside her stirs. Two strangers divided by nations, by uniforms, by war, have finally collided. For a moment the war falls away. In the flickering half-dark there is no Reich, no occupation, no siege. Only a blind girl who has spent her life learning to see without eyes, and a boy who has spent his life hearing what others cannot. They recognize each other not by sight, but by something deeper, something wordless, a shared longing for light in the midst of shadow. Far away in the burning city, Von Rumpel drags his diseased body closer, his mind consumed by the diamond he believes is near. He stumbles toward the house, coughing, determined to claim immortality even as his body betrays him. But in the attic, Werner and Marie-Laure cling to a moment of fragile connection, a thread stronger than fear. She places her hand on his sleeve, feels the tremor in his bones, and understands he is not here to harm her. He is here because, like her, he has been listening. And so, amid the ruin of Saint-Malo, as bombs rain down and shadows consume the streets, the two children finally meet. The invisible light that has bound them since childhood, the voice of the radio, the echo of hope, the promise that something greater waits beyond the darkness, burns between them, unseen yet undeniable. The war has not ended. The city is still burning. Von Rumpel still hunts. But in this moment, in this small attic above the crashing sea, two lives touch, and the light they could not see becomes at last real, real, real.